So, good evening, guys. So, for today's class, we're learning how to design a dashboard. So, this is a dashboard design I created. So, we'll be recreating this design. So, anywhere we stop, we'll continue in our next class. So, please confirm you can hear me and you can see my screen clearly. If you can hear me, you can
I
see
can
my
hear you, ma'am.
Okay. You can also see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing now we are going to do, so I will, sorry, one sec. So I'll create a frame, desktop frame. So I'll just call this dashboard homepage. So, so I'm going to create a sidebar. So the sidebar here is 224 by 1024. So I'll repeat the same thing here. So that number is, I think it's divisible by 8, 4, 2. I'll confirm. So I'll just draw a square here. You can use a frame. So I'll just go with a square. Okay, let me just use a frame instead. So here, 224. So let me give this, okay, I'll just leave that frame there. So before we start the main design, we have to come up with our red square method, creating spacing that are divisible by 8. So because this red square method is going to be very needful when designing our dashboard. So I'll create the first square. The first square will have a width of 8 and a height of 8. So this is the first square. So I'm going to give it a red color so that I can always identify the color when I'm using it to design. So you see how I'll use this in a bit. So red square method is basically creating red squares that are all divisible by 8, that the width and height of those red squares, they're all divisible by 8. So we'll be using this for our spacing. So here, 8 plus 8 is giving us 16. 16 plus 8 is giving us 24. So 8 plus 8, 16, 16 plus 8, 24. All these numbers are all divisible by 8. So we'll keep on adding 8 till we get to 48. So here is going to be 24. So here is going to be 32. 24 plus 8 is giving us 32. 32 plus 8 is giving us 40. So here is going to be 40. 40 here. Then 40 plus 8, 48. So you see how we use this in a bit. 48. The main reason I'm using this is because of my spacing between elements. So now I want to, so let me define my content area. The content area is basically here. Remember from our last class, content area is here. Here we're going to be keeping our main content. So let me hide this grid. So I'm going to color this tag, give this dashboard a color. So I don't want it to be pure white. Give the frame a color. The frame is going to be this ash. And I'll give the sidebar pure white. So for the next thing I'm going to do now, I already have my rescue method set. So the next thing now I'm going to do, I'm going to place my logo. So I'm not just going to assume and just place my logo anywhere. So I'll make sure the logo, there's a spacing here, all the spacing by the side here, everything is going to be calculated here. So here we'll be giving it, this top part will give it 24, this below part 24. The side here will give it 32 here. So I think I made a little bit of mistake here, but this one I do will not make that mistake there. So I'll just copy what I have here. I'll just copy this logo. So I'll place my logo. So one thing about this recipe method is that it helps you not to assume where you'll be placing your elements. So one of the major issue, I think I need a little bit of, okay, no. So one of the major issue we have as designers, especially when starting out, is that we tend to assume, we assume spacing. For example, some of us might just come and just place our logo anywhere. You don't know that you need to figure out what is the spacing here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. What is the spacing here? What is the spacing at this top? What is the spacing going to be below? So you don't just assume and place. But that was one of the reasons why I mentioned in our last class that some of the last assignment that was given, some of us tried. But the thing is that our design might look beautiful, but when it's being coded, you will notice that the design will look very awful. That's because when the developer followed the spacing that you gave, which the spacing you gave was not consistent, it didn't, if they follow that, it won't come out right during the development. So a product designer, yeah, like an architect that plans how the design is going to look, structure, and most of the times you need to like calculate the spacing you're giving. So if you're using numbers that are divisible by 8, use numbers that are divisible by 8. So if you're using 8, you can go below, you can use 4, the numbers that are divisible by 4. So most of the time when designing, I prefer using 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, and 48 to make my spacing. So most times I go higher, like 48 plus 8, I think that's 56. 56 plus 8. So I keep on going higher in a place when I'm designing like a website where there has to be enough breathing space between elements. So there's another thing you need to know, hierarchy. So I think I'll talk about that hierarchy in design in our next class. So most of all these little things can actually tell either you're a professional at what you do or you're an amateur. So I will duplicate this. So I want to make use of 32. So you can see it over here, width 32, height 32. So I'm making use of 32. So I'll place the 32 here. So I want all my elements, even you can see the 32 is not only going to work for the logo. If you watch this dashboard here, there are other elements, navigations here. So you can see what we have. So these are the dashboard, create new account, my courses. So let me use my Alt key. So you can see, I think I made a little bit of mistake here. So everything is going to be on that 32. So let's go with 32 first. So if we see 32 is too big, we can reduce it to 24. So I'll just place this at the edge. So I'm going to drag this because now at this point, we're making use of the width of this red square for the spacing. So we can extend the height of it. So I'll just extend it down. So let me also place this red square by the side. So I'm kind of having a hunch that this 32 is too big. So let's go with 32. So I place it by the side here. So you see how everything will come out in a sec. So the next thing now is to define the spacing that is going to be at this top here. So I don't just want to assume. So I will use um, 24. So one advantage of using this red square method is that it helps you to visualize your spacing. So because these red squares here are visible to me, so I can easily visualize what I'm doing, like visualize my spacing rather. So the next thing now is the line. So I'll copy this line. I'll just copy it. So I'll copy the line. So I'll just place the line here. But the thing is that I need to define the spacing between this logo and the line. I don't just want to assume. So if I use 24, like 24, the spacing between the logo and the line 24, I'm having a feeling it's too big. So let's just leave it at 24 first. You can always adjust it. If you feel like going with a 16, but let's go with this first. So now we have our line set. So the next thing now is our text. So I'll just copy this first text here. So let me copy this text and this rectangle here. So now I want to list the content of the sidebar. So I'll place this here. So let me hide this navigation. Let me make this black so that you understand what I'm trying to achieve. So now we have this text here. So I'll place it here. So there's something you need to do. So you can see the text is touching the content, which is the icon and this. So I will have to use the bounding box to make sure the bounding box is touching the red square. So what I mean by bounding box is this red and blue line that is always surrounding all our elements in Figma. So it's called bounding box. I'll just place it at the tip close to this red square. So the thing now is that remember there is a line here. So since we're done with these red squares here, okay, let's just leave it first. So the next thing now is to define the spacing between the line and this text. So now I'll just use 32. So I'll place 32 here. So I'll move it down. So now the next thing now is that I need to place the whole of this text inside, sorry, inside a rectangle so that in case the user is trying to know exactly where they are in the page, they can actually know. So right now I already have this. So you can see now, because we want to extend the length of this rectangle because some text that we might be having here, this dashboard, the text dashboard is not long. So it's fitted inside this rectangle. But in a scenario where we have a text that is very long, something, let's go back to this. So something like create new courses, you can see the text here is long. So for that reason, we need to extend the length, the width of this square. So despite the fact we're increasing the width, we also need to make sure that the spacing by this side here is equal. So what I'm going to do now, is to use 16. So I'll just duplicate this. I'll place it, sorry. So let me give this color another color so that it can be visible. So I'll place it here. 16. Now duplicate it here. 16. So I'll still bring these box down. Remember our spacing at the, between the line and this is 32. Then because I've added a rectangle, I'll make sure it's seated in the center. So despite the fact we have this inside this rectangle, we also need to make sure the spacing inside the rectangle is also calculated. So just watching, you see what I'm going to do. So I'll just reduce this boxes to 8. I think I should use 16 here. So here, 16, up and down 8. Let me see. Okay, so you can see the side here. I'm holding down my alt. So whenever you're designing and you hold down your alt, you can only see the spacing. So I'm holding down my alt. So you can see here, this part here is 16, up and down is 18. I don't know if you are following so far. So if you are following so far, say something in the chat section. So now that I have this, I'm going to change the text color to pure white. So now, I'm going to remove the whole of this red square now to see exactly what we have. So this one, I'll remove it. So now you can see what we have here. You can see, so these ones by the side, will still leave them. So what I'm going to do now, I'll group the whole of this. So when I group this, then I'll duplicate this. So since the first one, the primary color is blue. For this second one, there will be no need. The rectangle, I will not delete it. It will still be there. So this is one of the reasons why most when you're doing dashboard and you're trying to prototype, you're trying to prototype and prototyping is not working is because some elements that you are, what was it called, that you are designing with, they have different name, number one, and beside theirs, you're not duplicating them. So you can see here, this, I want to create the second element, I duplicated it. So let me just call this, I can give this to the same name. I'll just give this first one navigation. You can give it any name at all. So I'll just call it nav1. Call this one nav1 or nav2. Because in this situation, we're not using smart animate. I'll just leave it at nav1. Let me just make it the same. So I'll just copy the whole of this. So what I'll do, I'll just paste this text by the side here. Then I'll make sure all of them are seated inside the blue box. So just watch me. So all of them are still maintaining the same spacing. So because this blue one, the first one that is selected, that the user is going to be by default when they first time they come to this page, this dashboard, the first page they're going to see right when the user comes to this dashboard is the main home screen, home page of the dashboard. So for that reason, the first tab, the first navigation is going to be selected blue, letting the user know where they are. So this second one, there is no need for it to be selected blue. So I'll just give it white. Remember, it's still the same rectangle that was at this first one that is here. So I'll just give it white. Or I will hide the color. Or remove the color at all. Whichever. But the thing is that all of this is seated inside the box. That's the main goal. So in case I want to animate this, it's going to move in easily. So there's one thing you need to note about animation. For example, I'm animating when there's a rectangle here, and when, for example, here, the rectangle is here, but the rectangle is hidden. And another situation where you have to duplicate this rectangle from here to here, the animation is going to be different because if I'm animating this one that the rectangle is here but it's hidden, it's going to come out well. And the one I will just duplicate this rectangle, put on that, then duplicate again, put on that. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So maybe we'll do a little practical. So I'll keep on Hilda Joseph. You said you don't understand. Maybe when we do an example, you understand better. So most of you join very late. So make sure you go to the YouTube channel and watch the recording. So I will just paste all of this. Remember, all these are seated inside the box. So anything you're designing, so I think this thing I'm about to explain is a little bit advanced. Uh, you have to see everything you're designing as a group. So maybe in our next class, I will explain this. So let me not digress so I won't be confused. Let's just focus on this dashboard. So everything is inside a box. I'll paste this. Copy this, just paste it. So mind you, another thing you also need to note is that remember, the spacing between this icon and this text is also defined. That one I made use of auto layout is 12. So I wanted to use 16. I did not want to use 16 because 16 would be too big. So I had to go with another number that is still divisible by 4 too. 12, 14, but I decided to go with 12. So now I have on my sidebar. I'll select all of them because I want to make sure they are all well aligned. So space them. So this spacing between them, I'll use 32 to space them. So I'll just group them together. So let's see how it looks without these red boxes by the side. So you can see now the design is coming together. This is how the sidebar look without those red boxes. So you can see it's looking very clean. It's looking like a professional did the design. It's very neat. So that's one thing about spacing. Your spacing can make your design look very ugly or make your design to, like most times when people see your work, they can tell either the person is a professional and amateur. Sometimes the design might look very well, but the spacing can make it have some kind of little errors. So the next thing now is we want to put this our sign in, sign out here. So let's start with this. I'll just copy this. And I'll paste it here. So I will not just assume and just place it there. So I'm coming back in a sec. So remember, everything is inside the box. So I will not exclude this. So I'll duplicate this one, bring this out, place it, and make sure this is seated inside the box too. So yeah, so that's it for the sign out. So the next thing now is this line and this one here. So I'll just copy it. Now place it here. I'm coming back to this. Now that I have this, I'm not just going to assume and just place it there. So I'll make sure the spacing between this line and here, because this thing is supposed to be in the center here. So let me show you what I mean. So let me get 16. The rest square is 16. So I'll place it there. So I'll make sure the bounding box of I know majority of us we join this class with our phone. We don't use our laptop to join. So so this bounding box, remember, is going to touch this red box here, and this one is also going to touch, and the spacing between each of them is 16. So you can see it here. So this is an image, this is a text, this is an icon. So here this is 16 by the side because the spacing below has to be defined. Though I don't want to make use of 24 because I feel 24 is going to be too big for this below part. So I'll use 16 here. So the spacing between this and this spacing between the image and the line. So I'm using 16 to be well aligned. So you can see the line is touching the tip of this red box. So I'll delete the line because I'm done. I mean the red box because I'm done with it. So now we have this well placed. So now the next thing now we need to ask ourselves is that how are we going to place this sign out in a way that is going to be in the center of, because one thing you need to know is that you can see we have like is it four different group or three different group here. So I'm trying to explain a little bit about hierarchy. Because if hierarchy is being done right, it guides how the user consume your content in any design you do. So you might have the right content, but if the visual hierarchy is poor, users will still be confused. So now this logo is a group. This line and this logo, they're a little bit together, but this logo and this logo by itself is one group. Then we have the line. Then we have this third group here. Then we have another group here. And now we have another group here below. So let me just group the whole of this so that I won't scatter it mistakenly. So I'll group here and group this. Let me even lock it so that let me okay, let me move this inside. Then call this frame sidebar. So so now I want to define the spacing here. So I'll just make use of 48. So I'm bringing the 48 box. So I'll place it here. So the main reason, so you're going to see why I'm creating it in a bit. So I'll add another, I'll duplicate this like into like 4 times. So I'll just add these two boxes in auto layout. So I'll Control D, Control D. So I'm going to place this here. Why I'm doing this is so that it will be easier for me to place this in the center of these two groups. So I'll place it like this. So you can see the red line showing me 18 upward, 18 downward. So that means it's in the center of these four boxes that I duplicated. So now that is done, I'll delete it. And I have my sidebar. So let me remove the red line so that you see how our sidebar is ready. And now we have a perfect sidebar. So I don't know if you have any question concerning the sidebar. I know some of us might have little question. So if there is no question, we'll move over to creating the cards. Okay, so let's continue. Somebody's hand is raised. Okay, ask your question.
Okay, good afternoon. Good
Yeah, good
evening.
evening. Yeah,
I want to ask a question about this paste to replace functionality. Like the way you were pasting the new items into the items in the frame.
yeah.
I usually have problems when I'm pasting to replace in a component. Like it tells me you can't paste to replace this item. I don't know why. I've been wondering why it does that. Once it's in a component and maybe I want to change the text or the pictures, it doesn't paste to replace.
Okay, let's try it. Let's see. Let me put something in a component. Now this is a component, so let me duplicate this. So let me see if it will work. Okay, maybe that's how Figma is built. So let me see another way. Let me copy. Let me copy and let me paste. Okay, it's not working too from my end. So let me detach it and let me paste to replace. So I feel that's how Figma is being created, Fina. So I
Yes.
tried it. So you have to detach it first. So somebody is having another question. Please, the question you typed, unmute your mic and ask it so that we understand better, please.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay. Um, in the dashboard, the sign up number above the profile number, which is actually it is a good user experience for it to be like that. I believe like from what I learned, the sign out should be the least above action for the user. But in this case, it is seems like it is more important than the profile in a way.
Okay, that's fine. You're correct. So you want me to change it to be less less
Uh, not
significant?
really, not really change it though. I'm asking if it is still proper to do it that way. Like
Yes,
based on I
yeah. So I think I explained a little bit about that yesterday's class. So another way where that thing can be applied is in tables. So sometimes when creating table, especially when you know that the user is going to come to the table and there are some elements that they are going to look at for very fast, like they want to see it in art. Once they look at the table, they want to see that data, something like this amount. So in this case, this amount is not supposed to have the same color with others because this is a very important data. So now I'll change it now to bold. Sometimes you can even change the color entirely. So because this is like something that has to do with money. So there are some situations you also need to make it very bold, like something like this. All this data is very important. They see it at a fly. So that's just it about that. It's like trying to lay more emphasis on something. So let's continue. So the next thing now is for us to put this good morning dashboard and this search bar here. So I will not just rush and start placing it. So first of all, I will use my rescue method as a guide so that I can visually see the spacing I'm using. So I will just I'll repeat this 24 here. Remember, we use 24 at the top. Okay, before I forget, let's put our content area first. So I'm going to, for me to define my content area, I need to define the spacing I want to give there's a spacing between the navigation, I'm sorry, the sidebar and the content area. You can see I use 32 in this one. So I'll repeat the same thing here. It can be 32, it can be 24, whichever number you want to use. But I just want to use 32. I don't want the spacing between them to be too big or too small. So I'll place 32 here. Then I'm going to duplicate this and place it here. So now I'll create my frame. So because I've placed it there, so I'll know where to create my frame and stop. So I'll just create my frame. So I'll make sure my frame is at the tip of the red boxes. So let me zoom in so that you understand what I'm trying to say. So you can see this is the frame, this is the red box, is at the tip. So this frame that I just drew, I'm not going to give it any color. So it's going to be colorless. So I'll add my grid. Let me confirm the grid I use here. I'm making use of 12 as a count with 74, water 24. So I'll come to this place, put grid, column. Column is going to be 12. The gutter 24. Instead of stretch, I'll make it center. So why I'm making it center is because I want to increase the grid so that it will lap on these red boxes. You're going to see that in a bit. So now, if you look here, because I changed this from stretch, formerly it was a stretch. When it was a stretch, there was no width. I can't edit the width, but now I've changed it to center. I can now edit the width of this grid. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this 10 and use my arrow key on my keyboard to increase the number. You can see what's happening. So I'll keep on expanding the grid till the grid touches that red box. So now, so that is 74 as the width. Let me confirm if it's the same thing here. So it's the same thing here. So now with this, I can put my good morning dashboard, good morning and dashboard here with this search bar and notification icon here. So I'll come to this place, then I'll place it here. So remember, I'm making use of the same 24 that I used here because this is at the top. If I come here and use 24, then come to this part and use 32, the design will not look right. There's some design when you're designing the design, you use your intuition to like criticize the design. Most times there are some designs you might be looking at, it's not just feeling right for you. So I'll just extend this because right now I'm making use of the height of this box to define the spacing. So I'll extend this. So I'll bring the good morning text here. I'll copy the good morning text on the search bar. I'll place it inside. Let me call this content area. So I'll bring this down to make sure the bounding box is at the tip of red box this way. So let me ungroup this. I want to be sure everything is well aligned. And I'll group these two. So here, I'll remove it. So you can now see. So somehow I want to confirm if okay. So let me just do it like that. So let me bring back the grid. So the next thing now is this cards here. So let me copy one. We create this card. So I'll make sure each of this card will be seated in 3 columns. So let me just recreate it here. And the height is 112, 112. With corner radius of 8. Let me see the corner radius I gave them. 8. So I'll give you the same corner radius. So I'll give it corner radius of 8. So the main reason, okay, so let me just do what I'm showing you what I'm about to explain. So if you watch now, if you watch around this card, there is spacing around it. So right now I'm making it 24 around it, and this one I'm recreating. So let me give this pure white. So I'll get my 24. Duplicate it. Make sure I place it inside here. So I'll bring this icon here, I'll just duplicate it. So make sure it's seated at the tip. For this 24, I'm also going to bring it down because the spacing below too has to be the same thing with the one at the top. For that reason, I'll make sure the card is at the edge. So let me push this backward. So shift it this way here. All the spacing by the side is basically going to be 24. So if all this spacing, if you don't pay attention to all this spacing, the work might be good on Figma, but when it's being developed, you can't even put your developed version, or there are some product designer that they can't put the coded version of their work on their portfolio because it's not fine. The only thing they can only show clients is the design. So I'll extend this bounding box to touch the tip of this because most times it might be representing some data that has long figures. So I'll just extend it so that it can take basically extending the width. So remember the spacing between this icon and this. So I'll give it 24 and I'll extend this. So now that I'm done, let me delete all the boxes. I'll group this, then group all of them. So when I click on this and use my Alt, you can see the spacing around them, they are all 24, making everything well organized. So now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll duplicate this. Duplicate this. Duplicate this. And now we have our card. So I'll just group this because I want to define the spacing between these two, this good morning dashboard and this side. I know that these two is in a group. So the spacing between this one group, this first group here, and this second one. So I'll make use of 32. You can make use of 40. Let me go with 40 because 32 is looking kind of close. So let me remove this. So now you can see everything is coming together. So since we have created one card, so doing the rest card is very easy. So let's see if we can recreate this chart. So let's just place this chart here. The same thing about the chart. 24 by the side. I think there's a little bit of mistake here. So let me click here to see the spacing. Okay, so let me redo it so that those stuff will be uniform. So I'll carry it out here. So anywhere we stop, we'll continue in our next class. Going to on my grid. And duplicate this. So I'll just align this. So sorry, I mistakenly muted. So let's continue. So I'll go with this revenue. I'll keep it here. We only have 4 people. We only have 4 people in today's class. Okay, let's continue. So now I'm going to use 16 up. Okay, 24. So I'm basically going to be using my space bar and my alt to make sure it's 24. So you can see what I'm actually doing is once you, right now this is a rectangle, and this is a text. So now the text, for me to know the spacing by the side, I clicked on the text, then click on my alt key for me to know the spacing. So it's not the time we might use the red square method. But the red square method is very important. So now this is another method I'm using. So I'm using my alt to know the spacing by the side. So I'll do the same for this one. So I'll copy this. Paste it here. Sorry. I'll paste it here to ensure it's 24 by the side too. So far, do anyone have any question? So we'll be stopping here for today. So far, do anyone have any question? So in the absence of any other question, so that will be all for today's class. We're going to be continuing from where we stopped today in our next class. So see you all in our next class, guys.